Flames licked the walls and the quilt of smoke rolled in thick, black waves above our heads. Benoit and I stood over the body of the professor. We couldn't see each other's faces, but terror clearly showed in Benoit's eyes. "Check the drawers. I'll check his pockets," Benoit ordered. "What about prints?" I said in a panic. "Are you fucking kidding? In 5 minutes there won't be a body, let alone prints!" Benoit screamed. Realizing my stupidity, I began to rifle through the desk drawers as Benoit took the unenviable task of checking the dead guy's pockets. The entire building was a sea of sound as we worked. The fire roared and the building groaned under its own weight. "Robbings!" I said, as I produced several thin sheets of paper from the desk drawers. I could barely make out the words with the smoke, but I saw the word Silent Mother. For those of you young enough not to remember, this was how people used to copy shit before everyone had a copy machine in their house. Hell, maybe some of you are even young enough you barely know what a copy machine is. Benoit's eyes lit up at the sight of the papers. "We need to get out of here." Benoit didn't answer. The house gave out an unmerciful groan like a death rattle. It was doing the talking now, and neither of us needed to be told twice. We both sprinted for the front door as the roof beams began to collapse. We sprinted straight to the car. I took one glance back at the house. It was almost engulfed. The roof sagged and collapsed in on itself as I hopped into my car. Benoit was already behind the wheel. The engine roared to life. We left a spray of mud and gravel as we tore off the lawn and down the driveway. The car bounced along the dirt track, and we made it to the main road in double time, the house a raging inferno behind us. "The robbings?" Benoit inquired. I pulled them from my pocket and examined them, scanning for anything that might be relevant. I could barely read the copied writing, my eyes stinging with smoke, but several blocks of text had been underlined with a red pen. I turned the papers over. On the back were some handwritten notes. I read one note out aloud. "P.S. Mr. Benoit, it's worth pointing out that your statuette did appear to be hollow. Did you consider breaking it open? Perhaps you hadn't noticed as you seemed afraid to touch it. I assure you it's perfectly safe from a historical point of view, as it's a cheap modern replica. As to your question about the Red House, please see my other notes." "The Red House?" I questioned Benoit as he drove. "Look, I didn't want to freak you out, but I've been hearing voices telling me to go to the Red House," Benoit explained. "I already knew you'd been hearing voices, Benoit. That creep of a psychiatrist told me at Camp Zama. I just didn't know you were hearing the exact same voices as me." "No more secrets from here on out," I said angrily. "All right, no more secrets," Benoit agreed. "Oh, that nice hotel owner I told you about? He was actually murdered in a similar fashion to our professor friend back there," I said, waiting for the backlash. "Are you fucking kidding? You're bitching to me about secrets and you had a murder hidden under your hat?" Benoit spat back at me with anger. All right, we both agreed, no more secrets," I said while feigning reading the notes through my smoke-burnt eyes. We sat the rest of the journey in silence. We arrived at the shop looking like shit. Benoit unlocked the door and we shuffled inside. Benoit made for the back room and I followed. The back room was large enough, it also had a restroom. I took the rubbings out of my pocket and put them aside on a desk for safety. We took turns splashing cold water into our burning red eyes. After a few minutes I slumped down at a pillar exhausted. Benoit dried his hands and face, then threw the towel to me as he sat down at the desk to examine the papers. Benoit began to read aloud the underlined segments. "The followers of the Silent Mother believed that she could offer them eternal bliss if they found her temple and released the Silent Plague. The chosen few who followed her would then control this world in her name. The unbelievers would be empty husks ready to be commanded, their souls captured for torment by the Silent Mother." "Ah, shit, that sounds all too familiar," I said. Benoit nodded thoughtfully as he skipped to another passage. "The Silent Mother's temple, it is claimed, could only be found by locating 3 golden shrines to the Silent Mother, dotted around the globe. These shrines themselves were claimed to hold some weaker power over mortals and could enslave unbelievers foolish enough to touch them, which the Silent Mother would entice them to do. Those who resisted the urge to touch the shrine would be rewarded with part of the location of her temple. It must be noted at this point that the shrines in the temple are believed by all reliably scholarly sources to be purely mythological. The only dissenting voice on this fact was a talented medical student named Arthur Blake, who traveled extensively in Northern Europe and East Africa studying the folklore in those regions during the mid-1930s. He claimed in a paper for a historical journal that he had found 2 of the shrines and learned that the temple lay near a city by the sea fought over by all the great powers. He strongly believed that city was New Orleans. He refused to give any evidence why that city rather than many other cities that could match the given description. Suffice to say, his paper was roundly ridiculed for its vagueness, with many pointing out that no civilization spanned the diverse geographical areas he claimed to have found the shrines. Nor did it account for the fact that the stories of the Silent Mother's Temple go back more than 1,000 years, and no great powers fought over New Orleans until the 18th century. The student quickly retracted his paper, stating that while traveling for scholastic reasons, he had partaken in local rituals that involved psychedelics. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Benoit inquired, his hand shaking. "Yeah, fate's a bitch. You've been living somewhere near a haunted temple your entire life," I replied. "No, you idiot, that creepy fucking psychiatrist in Camp Zama," Benoit said, pointing at the papers. "Oh shit, no wonder he's got such a hard-on for us. He's been searching for that 3rd shrine most of his life, and we blew the shit out of it." Benoit began to read another one of the professor's handwritten notes. "Although I was skeptical, I rang the Louisiana Historical Society, and there is a building that was once referred to as the Red House. It was an infamous brothel built in the bayou when New Orleans was first settled. The building has been abandoned since the 1920s, but has not been demolished as it is a protected historical structure." "He has an address written here," Benoit said, looking over at me. "That detail wasn't copied from a book, so maybe our psychiatrist and his lady friend don't know the location. Yet. Unless they managed to torture the information out of the professor," I suggested. "Why kill the professor and burn the house unless they already had all the information they needed? Otherwise they still needed us to find the temple," Benoit replied. "Maybe he lied to them, or they just got sloppy. Hell, maybe we interrupted them when we arrived," I argued. "We have to assume they either already know where the temple is, or are going to follow us if we go looking for it," Benoit said, concerned. As we both pondered the subject, I spotted the statuette on the shelf. I picked it up with the towel, wrapped it into a ball, and smacked it against the top of the desk. I heard it shatter to pieces. This startled Benoit a little. "Jesus, you could have warned me first!" Benoit scolded me as I opened the towel, pouring the broken contents onto the desk. The broken contents emerged along with a small handwritten note. "If you find the temple, destroy it. Don't let the followers of the Silent Mother release the plague. You've already destroyed one of her shrines. Finish the work and release the souls she torments." "I guess more than one group has been following us," I said, confused. "Alright, fuck this shit. We go to the temple and fuck it up. But I'm not going to the temple without some serious firepower," Benoit said with resolve in his voice. "Do you know a guy?" I inquired. "Oh yeah, I know a guy," Benoit replied, pushing aside a storage closet to reveal a small door.